Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Well, Imran, first of all, I would like you to say some words about Dr. Israr. Ahmed, can you, his thoughts about his knowledge of Quran, his thoughts about the future, his side on the international affairs, how do you see all these things?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. My acquaintance with Dr. Israr Ahmed, rahimahullah, dates back from the 1980s. I was the principal of the Alimi Institute of Islamic Studies, 86 to 1988. And a very good friend of his was also someone directly connected with our institute, Sayyid Sahab, who lived in North Nazimabad. And through Sayyid Sahab, I got to meet with Dr. Israr. It was a very great privilege for me. And then he accepted an invitation to come to my home and have lunch at my home. And my mother-in-law, who is the daughter of Maulana Abdul Alim Siddiqui, rahimahullah, she came to the home for that luncheon. And my wife, my Pakistani wife, cooked a biryani. And Dr. Israr Ahmed enjoyed the biryani and went back to Lahore and wrote about it. But he and my mother-in-law sat down for a long time and had a very pleasant and good conversation about her father, Maulana Abdul Alim Siddiqui, rahimahullah. This was in the mid-1980s, yeah. I wanted to invite him to come and address the students of the Alimi Institute, but our management committee out there were not of the kind of people broad-minded enough, so it was not possible. But I went to Sayyid Saab's home to listen to his lectures over there, and I was very much impressed in my meetings with him. Subsequently, we met in New York, and then he invited me to Pakistan in 1996, I think it was. And in Rawalpindi, I then decided to become a Rafiq of the Tanzim. I found him to be someone with the right approach towards knowledge of Islam. The right approach being that we should not put the emphasis on law, nor should we put the emphasis on the hadith, but rather the emphasis should be on the Quran. This was precisely what my own teacher, Maulana Dr. Fadl Rahman Ansari, rahimahullah, insisted on. The priority goes to the Quran. And this is precisely what Dr. Israr Ahmed did, and that attracted me to him. Not only did he give priority to the Quran, but more than that, it was a lifelong devotion to the Quran, and may Allah reward him for his lifelong devotion to the Quran and to explaining the Quran and reviving interest and dedication to the Quran. I found him to be a man who made sacrifices in life. He was a medical doctor, and he gave up his career, his profession. I don't know any other Pakistani who would do that. To give up a medical career to become a scholar of Islam. I did the same thing myself. I was in the diplomatic service of Trinidad and Tobago, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And in 1985, I gave up that job and went back to Pakistan. And the Pakistani people told me, "You're a fool. Only a fool will give up a job in the diplomatic service to come to become a mullah." So Dr. Israr and myself were in the same boat, that we both gave up our careers to devote ourselves to the mission of Islam, and that attracted me to him. I also come from a tradition of people who travel constantly in Tabligh, in preaching Islam. Maulana Abdul Alim Siddiqui rahimahullah spent 40 years of his life traveling all over. He began when there was no air travel. No, he went by boat and by horse cars and so on, traveling. And then his disciple and successor and my teacher, Maulana Fadlur Rahman Ansari, rahimahullah, followed in his footsteps and traveled right around the world 5 times. From Karachi, he would travel west, and a few months later he returned come from the east. Yes. And Dr. Israr Ahmed followed in that noble tradition of traveling around the world, preaching Islam, up to a very old age, with great physical distress sometimes because of his knees. And it was wonderful to see someone be prepared to travel. Is not easy. You have to make sacrifice when you travel, yes. The comfort of your home is gone. And he never traveled with his wife. No, traveled alone. I never know about his wife traveling with him. When your wife travels with you, then you have some comfort. No? But I'm not aware of his wife traveling with him, for example, to the United States and so on. So this was something remarkable about him, his constant traveling to preach the mission of Islam. He had a commendable command of the English language. It was not his mother tongue. His mother tongue was Urdu. But then he told me one day he listened to someone else speaking on Islam in English, and the man's English was so poor. He said, if he can speak in English, so can I. And then he started to build up his knowledge of the English language, and by the end he was able to express himself in the English language satisfactorily. But not only did he acquire the English language, but because of his scientific training as a medical doctor, he was able to access knowledge of the modern world. And that made him different from the rest, who had less than a passing acquaintance with the modern world. I found him to be a man of integrity, of courage, more courage than I had. That he would have a firm, very firm view on something, and he would enforce it and apply it. And I saw in his own family, I saw in his children, the way he managed with them, how he enforced and applied what he was teaching in his own family. And that was, masha'Allah, 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 something beautiful to behold. I remember an instance where we were in Islamabad or Rawalpindi, and both he and I had the same view concerning the national anthem. But when the time came for the Pakistan national anthem, I chickened out and I stood up with everybody else. Only one man sat down, only one. A man of much less courage, much less integrity. Dr. Israr Ahmed sat down. He will not stand up. And I learned a lesson from him. Imran, you don't have backbone as yet. This man has backbone. These are things that attracted me to him. That, Khidr alayhi salam, you'll find him sitting on a rock. You won't find him sitting on shifting sands, on a rock. And Dr. Israr Ahmed was like that, a man sitting on a rock. His views were cast in concrete. So these were very endearing memories of mine, of my relationship with him. I benefited tremendously, yes. I benefited from my attachment with Maulana Fadlur Rahman Ansari, in another way. And I benefited from my attachment with Dr. Israr Ahmed in another way. The most important thing I got from Dr. Israr Ahmed and from those around him was what he got from Maulana Abdul Alam Maududi, rahimahullah. And that is the concept of Iqamatul Deen, the importance of the establishment of the Jama'ah, the appointment of the Amir, the relationship of as-sam'u wa ta'atu, the enforcement of the Sharia. This I was not aware of. I had no practical guide in this, because the other Islam to which I had been introduced was the one which was directed towards the heart of the individual, to restore faith, to restore the Islamic personality of the individual. And of course that is of supreme importance. You cannot establish the deen unless you restore the faith of the individual. So this by itself was not enough. When this combined with that, that made it a complete whole. And it was something beautiful to behold. I have to congratulate him again and again and again and again for creating the Tanzim Islami. It was a beautiful Jama'ah, a beautiful Rufaka, lovely discipline in that Jama'ah, and I only benefited. And I have with me golden memories of the time that I spent with the Tanzim Islami. Seldom will you find today in the world an Islamic movement built so beautifully, with such discipline in it, such an emphasis on knowledge, on thinking and so on, as you would find in the Tanzim Islami. And finally, I was surprised and delighted to see that the Tanzim Islami was not involved in electoral politics. I was surprised and I was delighted, because that's also my position, where we differ with Maulana Abul Ala Maududi, that we are involved in politics. Yes, we are, but not in electoral politics. And up to this day, the Tanzim has held on to that position of theirs, that members of the Tanzim do not vote in elections and are not in part of electoral politics. So this is the brief introduction to my relationship with Dr. Israr.
Now coming to the point, Imran, about Dajjal. In the light of Quran and Hadith, can you please introduce the Dajjal to a common man?
As if I'm going to have to enter into the record something which perhaps is not known. And that is that after I joined the Tanzim in New York, I already had a very high profile in New York as a scholar of Islam. And the Tanzim of North America rapidly moved me forward, appointing me as director of Da'wah, for example, for North America. And so I was involved in public lectures. Wherever the Tanzim had a program, I would be on the platform. But the mid-90s and the late 90s was precisely that period of time when I was entering into Ilmu Akhiru Zaman, because New York was the best city of all to know the world. So as I began to study Surah Al-Kahf of the Quran from 93 onwards, by the time of 96, when I joined the Tanzim, my thoughts were already developing. I already had an introduction to Gog and Magog. I already had an introduction to Dajjal. And I was already seeing clearly what they were doing in the world. But my views on the subject were strange to Dr. Israr. apparently was not comfortable with these views of mine on Dajjal and on Gog and Magog. And so he called me in one day, and in his capacity as Amir, my Amir, gave me orders that he did not want me to lecture and he did not want me to write on the subjects of Dajjal and of Gog and Magog. I respected him before he gave that order. I respected him while he gave the order. I have respected him and admired him since he gave that order. And up to this day, my esteem for him is unchanged. But I could not accept that order. No, I could not. With no disrespect for him whatsoever. I was of the opinion that no man has authority over another man in the world of knowledge. And so I could not accept that order of his. And I continued with my work. And eventually, 2 years later, by 99, Jerusalem and the Quran was already in my mind. And I began writing it in 99. And by the time 9/11 took place, the book was already substantially written. And it was published in 2001, 2002 probably. Either 2001 or 2002, Jerusalem and the Quran was published. Jerusalem and the Quran to this day has remained a bestseller. It has won universal acclaim around the world. No one has attacked that book as yet with credibility. None. No one. It is constantly being translated into new languages. Constantly. The last one now is Russian. Russian translation nearing completion. I have lost count, maybe about 24 translations already. It's a translation in Pashto. If I had obeyed Dr. Israr Ahmed, that book would not have been written. Subsequently, I also wrote an Islamic view of Gog and Magog in the modern world. It remains to this day the solitary book on the subject written in the modern age, which is scholarly. The rest can be fit for Disneyland. I feel sad to say so, really. But it's not my being unfair to others. It's just that I don't see scholarly work on Gog and Magog. And so eventually we had a parting of ways between me and the Tanzim, but the love that I have for the Tanzim has always remained there. And if ever I go to Lahore and I stay anywhere else but in Model Town, the members of the Tanzim are quite angry with me. Yes. Why did Dr. Israr Ahmed give me this extraordinary order to be silent on the subject of Dajjal and of Gog and Magog? Why? A man of such intellectual power and discipline and integrity. I have to take it back to methodology. I believe it is methodology which separated us, and I believe that Allah has blessed me to penetrate the subject of Dajjal and of Gog and Magog and of Ilmu Akhiru Zaman. I believe that this barakah has come from him largely because of methodology. That you do not take the hadith by itself in isolation. No. If you want to study the subject of Gog and Magog, you do not go first to the hadith. No, that's wrong. That's not the right way. You must first go to the Quran and let the Quran teach you the subject of Gog and Magog. And then you go to the hadith. Secondly, you must, when you go to the Quran, you must be able to treat the verses of the Quran like the stars in the sky. The stars in the sky are not just isolated stars. No. Allah didn't put the stars in the sky just for beauty. He says in Surah Al-Mulk, وَلَقَدْ بَعْدَ أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ وَلَقَدْ زَيَّنَا السَّمَاءَ الدُّنْيَا بِمَصَابِحِ إلى آخر الآية. By using the word masabih, plural of misbah, you have an absolutely important, strategically important lesson concerning methodology. That you have to understand how the stars are connected to each other, if you're able to use the star as lamps to see. Similarly, you have to know how the ayat of the Quran are connected to each other. If you're able to understand and be able to, the ayat of the Quran become like lamps for you. Okay? And mashallah, we have so many distinguished scholars of Islam all through the ages who have devoted their lives to this subject. I am just a little spark in the latter age, but there are so many who have preceded me. Maulana Fadlur Rahman Ansari rahimahullah gave us this beautiful phrase. He says, in order for you to be able to put the ayat of the Quran together and organize them as a whole, you have to locate what he calls the system of meaning. It is like a necklace, and you have the pearls, and you have the string. And you have to put the pearls onto the string to make a necklace. So that string, that taga, that twine, is the system of meaning of the ayat. You cannot locate the system of meaning without an intellectual jihad. And more than that, it is more than the rational faculty that has to be at work. More than the rational faculty. It has to be both the head and the heart. It has to be external knowledge and internal insight, or basira. When these two combine together in the study of the Quran, you're able to locate that system of meaning. And then you'll be able to read the Quran correctly. So when you do that for Gog and Magog, then you will be able to go now to the hadith. And if a hadith is in harmony with the Quran, you accept it and you put it on the necklace, and your database is expanding. If a hadith is neither in harmony with the Quran nor in conflict with the Quran, you still accept it, of course, but it'll have a lower status. But what happens when a hadith is in conflict with the Quran, or it appears to be in conflict with the Quran? And so you put it aside. You put it aside. You do not give priority and precedence to a hadith over the Quran. When this methodology is used, only then can you understand the subject of Gog and Magog. And it is our sadness, really, the sad reality, that our scholars of Islam, so many of them, have chosen on the basis of one solitary hadith to come to the conclusion from which they're not budging. Come rain or sunshine, they're not budging. That Gog and Magog will be released only after Nabi Isa alayhi salam returns and he kills Dajjal. Before that, there is no Gog and Magog. That is so sad, because when you hold on to one solitary hadith and you come to your conclusions, cast in concrete, you have disrespected the Quran. And I hope and pray that these words of mine might wake up those who listen to me. Similarly with Dajjal. The fact that Dajjal is not to be found, no mention of Dajjal by name in the Quran, no mention by him, is important. It is important. But the Quran says that it is tibyanan likulli shay. It explains all things, so it must explain Dajjal. If it explains all things, And if Dajjal is the greatest fitna that mankind will experience from the time of Adam alayhi salam to the last day, would the Quran not address the subject of Dajjal? Good. We now have to ask the question, Asif. If the Quran addresses the subject of Dajjal, and Allah chooses not to do it in the ayat muhkamah, therefore He has chosen to do it in the ayat mutashabihat. Why has He chosen? Why? There must be a reason. Ayat mutashabihat cannot be interpreted unless Allah gives you the knowledge. In other words, Allah is reserving this subject for Himself. Reserving it for Himself. This subject is not for every Tom, Dick and Harry. Common man cannot access this subject of Dajjal. No. He has kept it out of the muhkamat. He put it into the mutashabihat. And in order for you to penetrate the mutashabihat, you have to have ta'wil. And that ta'wil is possible only for Allah and for the rasikhuna fil ilm, meaning serious scholarship for Dajjal. Because we have not adopted this approach of recognizing the two oceans of ayat in the Quran. And you know about the full stop. You know about that, if you'll allow me to call it, that wicked full stop. That wicked full stop. Whoever put that wicked full stop, one day we must know who he is, identify him. That because of that wicked full stop, how many scholars have now come to the conclusion about mutashabihat. Only Allah knows the meaning. Only Allah knows the meaning. So full stop, that's it. There is no way to access Dajjal through the Quran. If you cannot use the Quran to access Dajjal, and you only go into the Hadith, oh my gosh, Dajjal is going to make you dance to every tune he wants to play. And you'll be running around in circles. You'll be confused. Okay? Because you're not going to the Quran first. I think this is part of the reason why we have this tremendous void in the world of Islamic scholarship today, an incapacity to penetrate the subject of Dajjal. Today is not the day as if for me to spend the next 1 hour introducing Dajjal. But what I have done is to explain why we are at this standstill. We cannot move forward to explain, to understand, to penetrate the subject of Dajjal. It is a subject problem of methodology.
Dajjal, there is a fitna of Dajjal. That we think that we are already in it. How would you recommend a Muslim to be away from this fitna?
I thought you were going to speak in Urdu and I will speak in English.
उर्दू में बोलूं? दज्जाल की शर से बचने के लिए नबी अकरम सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने उम्मत मुस्लिमों को क्या है?
जी. If we are to respond properly to Dajjal as an ummah, it is necessary for us to not only adopt the proper methodology, we must also receive Allah's grace. And Allah's grace comes down in the form of knowledge coming down directly from Allah. Allah's grace would not come down if the heart of the individual is not a special kind of heart. He is Ar-Rahman. And that famous hadith with which you begin the study of Sahih Bukhari, Ar-Rahimuna yarhamahum ar-Rahman, irhamu man fil ard, yarhamukum man fis sama. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا rahmatan lil alameen. So rahma is a foundation pillar, and you cannot access knowledge from Allah unless you are yourself built on the foundation of rahmah. And this gives us now the model of scholarship for this age, through which this ummah can address the subject of Dajjal. The model of scholarship of this age is not the Darul Uloom. No, it's not the Darul Uloom. It's a different epistemology in which knowledge must come directly from Allah. And who is that individual who personifies the model of scholarship in Akhirul Zaman? He's there in Surah Al-Kahf. He's Khidr alayhi salam. Khidr alayhi salam. And Islamic scholarship in India and Pakistan is more advanced than the rest of the world. Because Iqbal recognized as plain as the sunshine, that's how Iqbal recognized that model of a scholarship. I don't know much Urdu, and I do not know much of these verses, but this one I memorized because your father helped me. हजारों साल नरगिस अपनी बेनूरी पे रोती है, बड़ी मुश्किल से होता है चमन में दीदावर पैदा. Who is Didawar? Didawar is the Khidr. Khidr alayhi salam, that's a Didawar. Khidr. So Iqbal is pointing beautifully to the need for a Khidr. He was not impressed by Darul Uloom education. Iqbal was not. No. He was so unimpressed by it that he called for the reconstruction of religious thought in Islam. Because what was coming out of the Darul Uloom was inadequate for facing the challenges of the modern age. Okay? Iqbal called for Didawar. Didawar is Khidr alayhi salam. If we are to get out of the mess in which we are today, if we are to have a tomorrow in which the world of Islamic scholarship will now function credibly, using the Quran to understand the reality of the world today and respond to it appropriately, it will be on the basis of following in the what you call Naqsh-e-Qadam, the footprints of Khidr alayhi salam. And the footprints of Khidr alayhi salam is number one, epistemology. The knowledge does not come only from external forces. There's that knowledge which is externally acquired, and there's that knowledge which is internally received. And these two are like two oceans of knowledge. And you'll find the most learned where? Majma' al-Bahrain. Majma' al-Bahrain, where the two oceans meet. Khidr alayhi salam is آتَيْنَاهُ رَحْمَةً مِنْ عِنْدِنَا. So he's built on the foundation of rahmah. If we are to follow in the footsteps of Khidr, we also must be built on the foundations of rahmah. Rahmah, yes. You don't suspect other people. No. You put a good meaning to things. Always accept them to be good until you have evidence to the contrary. Do not be suspicious of people. آتَيْنَاهُ رَحْمَةً مِنْ عِنْدِنَا. That's rahmah. That's a heart built on rahmah. A heart which is forgiving and merciful. And then you qualify وَعَلَّمْنَاهُ مِنْ لَدُنَّا عِلْمًا. This is a brief answer to you. This is how we should prepare ourselves to respond to Dajjal in terms of scholarship.
ये कहा जाता कहता है कि दज्जाल जो है उसके पास खुदाई ताकतें होंगी।
उसके पास
खुदाई ताकतें होंगी,
खुदाई ताकत, हाँ।
जिसको चाहेगा रिस्क देगा, जिसे चाहेगा रोक लेगा। जब ऐसी ताकतें उसके पास होंगी तो लोग कैसे उसको पहचान सकेंगे? लोग तो खुदा समझेंगे उसको।
वो तो हो गया। They are already worshipping Dajjal. हाँ जी, the world is already worshipping Dajjal. वो तो, this is not a matter for the future. ये तो हो गया, हो गया. Where is the evidence that the world is worshipping Dajjal? Answer: anytime Dajjal takes you on one road, you follow him and you go on that road. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the donkey and the mule and the horse and the camel. And in creating these animals, He created them for different kinds of purposes. There's the oxen and the bison and so on for big loads, traveling loads, long distances and so on, strong animals. And the camel, which can keep water in its stomach, alright? And that water, the camel drinks enough water for maybe, 2 weeks, the camel can do without water. And if you're dying for thirst in the desert and you kill a camel, you can get some water. Yeah. So these animals are not fashioned by accident. Lo and behold, Dajjal comes with oil and mechanized transport. And what happens to the entire world of transport that Allah created? Where is it today? Subhanalladhi sakhkhara lana hadha. Where is the hadha today? Huh? Nobody rides a donkey anymore except in the villages. Even in the desert they're not riding camels anymore. They have these four-wheel drives for the desert. Nobody rides a camel anymore. And suddenly it's gone. But Allah did not create the horse only for traveling. No. The male, when he uses a horse, he gets exercise for his body. He gets exercise for his male functions. As a man, his virility as a man. Alright? His sexual prowess. All of these things are connected with the exercise that he gets from riding horses. So along comes the iron horse and we abandon the natural horse. And in the process of losing that mode of transport that Allah created, we also now reduce ourselves to a shadow of what we could be. This is Dajjal's masculizing, making us less and less men, until one day men will be dressing like women and women dressing like men. So women can assume the functional role of men in society and men will assume the functional role of women in society. This is worshipping Dajjal. Dajjal took the dinar and dirham out of the market. Have they asked themselves the question, where did the dinar and dirham go? Who took it out? Why did they take it out? Kabhi pucha aapne? Did they ever ask this question? Before this substitute came, who gave us this substitute? What is the status of this first substitute? What is its function? Huh? This is Dajjal. Dajjal gave us this money. And our universal acceptance of the Pakistani rupee and the Bangladeshi taka make us all believers in Dajjal. We're already worshipping him. So this is not tomorrow. This is already today. The Khilafah is gone. The Shura is gone. And in place of the Shura you have this bogus with a capital B. This stupid system of elections by secret ballot. Secret ballot? You can't say that. Where does this secret ballot come from? We never knew that in Islam. You are responsible for your choice in Islam. Yes. You have to be known, your choice, your view. But they gave us this rotten, stinking, filthy system of secret ballot that nobody knows anything. And so you could do whatever you want with the results. You could hatch it, you could rehatch it, you could tamper with it, you could give us the elections anyhow you want, and you could have a Nawaz Sharif as your Prime Minister.
कुछ मजहबी दानिशवरों की राय है कि दज्जाल किसी खास शख्सियत का नाम नहीं बल्कि ये दीन दुश्मन निज़ाम या तहजीब के लिए एक सिंबल है जैसे आज दुनिया में मगरबी तहजीब मुसल्लत है ये बात कहाँ तक दुरुस्त है कि वो एक शख्सियत का नाम नहीं बल्कि एक तहजीब का नाम है जो अल्लाह के खिलाफ
My apologies, Asif. People who express such an opinion don't even have an introduction to scholarship. They are not scholars. You're wasting your time with such people. Yes, they are not scholars. No, they probably know how to cook biryani, but you cannot admit them into the world of scholarship if you express such an opinion. No, because it is elementary. Elementary. Why don't they have any sense? The Prophet ﷺ introduced Dajjal to us as Al-Masih al-Dajjal. What does it mean? This is Khansama's thought. What is Al-Masih al-Dajjal? Al-Masih al-Dajjal is a person who will seek to impersonate Al-Masih. If you are a horse, can a horse impersonate the son of Mary? If you are a jackass, can a jackass impersonate the son of Mary? No. Even if you're an angel, you still have to come in the form of a human being. Even if you're a jinn, you still have to come in the form of a human being if you are to successfully impersonate the Messiah. So Dajjal has to come in the form of a human being and declare, I am the Messiah, for the Jews to accept him as the Messiah. But he has to do more than that. The Messiah has to come from the house of Dawood alayhi salam. So he has to demonstrate who is his father and who is his mother and grandfather and grandmother. I don't need to speak anything more on that.
याजूज और माजूज इनका जिक्र कुरान में है आजकल हम याजूज और माजूज किनको कहेंगे
Gog and Magog today are located in the Judeo-Christian Zionist alliance, full stop. For me to explain more, it will take a long time. I have to go to the Quran, and having finished with the Quran, then I have to go to Hadith. So I give you the conclusion at the end. That's it. Gog and Magog are the Judeo-Christian Zionist alliance. Well, thank you very much, Asif, and I offer my salams and love to all those in Pakistan who will listen to this short interview. And I pray that one day Allah make it possible for us to meet again, inshallah. Okay, assalamu alaikum. Bismillah.